Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with the Fan TV back at you. The video at the content of this video, go smash that like button at the content of this channel. Go and subscribe, man. Look, so Eric Decosta spoke at the NFL Combine. Gave his first presser since in a minute, really. We haven't really heard from anybody from the Ravens organization. And I think this person kind of really broke up into three kind of categories, right? You got your Justin Tucker stuff, free agency, and then obviously the draft itself, right? So I'll talk about each little topic. Harbaugh's supposed to talk today too, I believe at 1 o'clock. I'm recording this at like 12. So, I'm on lunch, right? So just trying to get this video in and talk about it. But if Harbaugh says something interesting, maybe I'll do another video today too, as well, talking about that as well. All right. But as far as what the Costa talked about, right? So let's start with Justin Tucker. All right. Let's just get the facts about what he said. All right. He said the league is investigating and that the Ravens are waiting on the league's decision. All right. They're waiting for more information, more facts to come in. That the Ravens only knew about the story supposedly shortly before a local news outlet broke the story, the Baltimore Banner. Okay. And that lastly, the Ravens are currently scouting kickers. They say they do that all the time, but that they are currently looking at kickers around the league, right? Or in the draft, I have to say. All right. Okay. Now, a couple things about this, right? He's lying. I mean, that's the kind of first thing that comes to mind, right? The Ravens definitely knew about this story before the Baltimore Banner broke this. Shortly before they broke it, they definitely knew about it. It's been going on for too long. It's too many allegations. Too many people for somebody not to get wind of it in the Ravens organization. I got people that I know personally that knew about Justin Tucker and what he was doing. Right now, I wasn't aware of it, obviously, but there's tweets when this story first broke, come from 4 or 5 years ago about what Justin Tucker was doing. Right, so they definitely knew about it. Okay, so I'm not here blaming Eric Decosta for that because he is a GM. They lie a lot. That's part of the job. He's not going to give us the 100% truthful answers. That's really not in his job title to do that. Okay, so that part I'm not holding him accountable for that. Whatever, right? I don't like the fact that they're saying that yes, we're waiting on the league to investigate. You guys can do this investigation yourselves. You don't have to wait on the league for this. Maybe there's certain ramifications of that they have to wait on the league before they can make their own decision. To me, I don't think that to be true. If you have a player that's come out and these kind of allegations are swirling around them, you can make your own decisions about what to do next with said player, right? To me, this is just kind of an excuse so that they can wait, push it off, and then when June 1st comes, they can cut Justin Tucker, right? So they can make it seem like, oh, well, we're really just waiting for the league to gather their facts. We don't want to be too hasty, this and that, when really they're waiting so that they can get off the contract and save a little bit of money on the cap, right? That's just my opinion on it, okay? Just reading through that, right? And as far as scouting the kickers, that's what they should be doing. They should have been doing that. Honestly, they're probably already thinking about that, given the struggles Justin Tucker was having previously, right? Now, I will say this, right? I don't think anybody should be looking for morality inside of their sports teams, right? They're here to win games and to be and to make money, right? So, but I will say this, even with me making that statement, it is disappointing for the fact that the Ravens just won't flat out cut Justin Tucker, right? There's supposed to be a zero tolerance policy, especially for any kind of domestic violence, any kind of sexual abuse towards women, right? It's supposed to be a zero tolerance for that on the Ravens organization, right? When the Ray Rice thing happened, that's what the new policy was. This is the zero tolerance for these kind of things in this organization. But now, with Justin Tucker, we're waiting for the information. We're seeing what's happening. We're going to let the league investigate. We're going to let the league make the decision before we really get in there. To me, all of that just kind of sounds like BS, right? And I'm disappointed that that's the stance that the Ravens are taking, right? Once again, like I said, I'm not looking for morality inside of my football team, but I am looking for them to be a man of their word, right? You told me one thing, now you're exhibiting a different behavior, okay? That's my only kind of gripe with that. All right. And we'll see a lot of people saying on Twitter that, well, now that the Ravens are not doing this moral grandstanding, that they'll draft more players with questionable backgrounds, character concerns, this and that. That's not happening as long as John Harbaugh's coach. Right. That's just not happening. Those are not the kind of players John Harbaugh wants to coach. Right. For better or for worse. Right. I would love to see the Ravens have more guys with a little bit more questionable attitudes, right? Now, you don't want people who are complete idiots, right? Nothing like that, but you do need some guys out there who a little bit more dog, right? Just a little bit, right? So, but as long as John Harbaugh's the coach, that's not changing. All right. So, this just like situation is not going to make the Ravens change how they view their draft pool. At least I don't see that happening. All right. But just a little wrap the bow on that, on just Tucker thing. We'll see where it goes from here. Like I said, I think the Ravens are just playing the long game. They're going to say all the things that make it seem like, hey, it's not on us. It's on the NFL to investigate. Then once the NFL finishes their investigation, they'll cut them post June 1, and then they'll move on to a new kicker, right? I wish they would take a little bit of a stronger stance than that, but it is what it is, right? All right, now for the free agency part of it, they asked Decosta about Ronnie Stanley. He said Ronnie Stanley is a priority free agent. That him and Ronnie Stanley's agents have worked out a deal in the past before. He is confident that it can happen again, but there's no 100% guarantees, and that's a fact, right? So another thing, right player, right price. The Ravens don't have a ton of cap space in free agency. He said that, the typical lineup we always hear. Also, something that was interesting, I thought, but this is something that really happens every offseason now. DeCosta will go to South Florida to meet with Lamar Jackson, talk about some draft prospects, talk about, I guess I'm assuming, free agency as well, and just to get his overall idea on the next direction this team is going in. All right. Then lastly, some Mark Andrews praise, right? So, let's talk about all of this, right? So the Mark Andrews praise, he said Mark Andrews is a ring of honor guy. He's gonna have a great year next year. He has all the faith in Mark Andrews that he's the kind of player he wants to have on his team, right? So I would be very surprised if the Ravens traded Mark Andrews or anything like that. I would be surprised by that, right? Not saying that it's not time, not saying that Isaiah Likely doesn't deserve a bigger role on his team, and that Mark Andrews, playoff performances have left a lot to be desired, right? It's not just about dropping one pass and fumbling one time versus the Bills. This is a history of underperforming in the playoffs for Mark Andrews, right? Even with that being said, I don't think the Ravens are getting rid of him this offseason, right? I don't. Ronnie Stanley, I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. I am not comfortable with Ronnie Stanley leaving the building. Okay. Now, if the number gets so crazy that it doesn't make sense, if we're talking about excess of $23 million a year, go get your money elsewhere, right? But if we're talking about, let's say 21, okay, let's say 17 to $21 million a year, I'll be willing to pay that for Ronnie Stanley. I would, right? You're gonna say, well, look, injury history. This is really his first healthy year. I get all that, right? Football is all a risk, right? It is. But at the end of the day, Roger Rosengarten is a left tackle by trade, technically, right? He blocked Michael Penix's blind side at Washington, which was the right side because Michael Penix is left-handed. So Roger Rosengarten can play left tackle. He can. I don't want to move Roger Rosengarten to left tackle when I can just pay Ronnie Stanley, let Roger Rosengarten grow some more at right tackle, and then I can still draft a tackle in the draft. Let him sit, develop, or even let that tackle play guard a little bit, get him out there on the field, and then when Ronnie Stanley's ready to go in 2 years, get Ronnie Stanley out of there. You already got your replacement on the team who's already had experience. That's my pathway. I don't want to go into the season where Roger Rosengarten is now left tackle. We're going to have somebody new next to Falele on right tackle. I don't want that. That's just my opinion on it right now. It may not go that way, but we'll see, right? But that's just my opinion on it, right? And then, the classic line, right? The Ravens don't have a lot of money in free agency, right? That's always the classic line, right? Even with the cap going up, the Ravens are always capped out. But Costa's reason was that, that we draft well. We have a lot of homegrown players, and that when you draft well, you want to pay your good players that are in the building, right? So he brought up Linderbaum, he brought up Kyle Hamilton, obviously Ronnie Stanley as well, right? So that's the reasoning for it. But that's to be expected, right? The Ravens don't make splashes on the first week of free agency. That's just not what they do, right? Typically. Okay. All right. And then lastly, about the actual combine itself, just some draft questions that he answered or what they could possibly be seeing at the combine, right? He said that it's going to be best player available at 27, like it always is, that pass rushers in the mix. He also said that there's a lot of talent at guard in the first and second round of this draft, right? And that they're looking at wide receiver talent, whether that's free agency or in the draft, right? They are looking at wide receiver talent, right? And then the last thing he said was, not the last thing, one of the things he said was that the plan right now is to use all 11 draft picks, right? And I want to start right there. To me, that's a mistake. Okay, the Ravens don't need 11 rookies on this team. If you can package a couple picks to move up and get a little bit of a higher draft pick, whether that's in the second, third round to get another top 100 player on this team, I would do that, right? The Ravens don't need a bunch of, fifth, sixth round picks on the team, right? You don't need to draft all 11 people, right? Because even if you do draft, you say you draft 11 guys, right? You're not going to hit on all 11. You'll be lucky to hit on four or five, right? So in my opinion, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not drafting 11 rookies. I'm not doing that, right? If I can package up a couple of these picks to move up in the third round, move up in the second round, and get a quality player, a quality top 100 player, that's what I'm going to do, right? When you look at the draft, when you look at the people who make impact on NFL teams, right? It's usually those players that go in the first three rounds, right? That's usually the people who make impacts on your team, right? Obviously, you can find your gems in rounds 4 through 7, right? It's not unheard of, but it is less likely. Okay, so if I can get some of those top picks, top 100 guys, that's what I'm going to try to do. All right. Now, as far as best player available at 27, as we already knew that's what the Ravens are going to do. I do like the fact that he mentioned the guard play, right? Now, there are a lot of talented offensive linemen in this draft. There's a lot of talented guys that can play, that have flexibility, that can play guard and tackle. We'll see what the kind of guy the Ravens are looking for. But the fact that that's in the mix is a good thing, right? The Ravens have been talking for so long about building up a quality, tough, physical offensive line since really Lamar Jackson became the starter, right? And honestly, Lamar Jackson's best offensive line was his first year in 2019. And they haven't really reached those heights since, right? It's hard to always to replace, Marshall Yanda, who's, maybe the best player at his position in NFL history. But at the end of the day, the Ravens need to do better on the offensive line, right? So they have three spots that, to me, if they bring back Ronnie Stanley, are solidified: left tackle, right tackle, and center. And Falele is probably going to play right guard. It is what it is. Hopefully he continues to get better, and we'll see a different Dan Falele next season, right? But that left guard spot can use some upgrading, and we'll see what they do there, right? So that's kind of my overall reaction, thoughts about the Eric Decosta press conference, right? That happened really like an hour ago when I'm recording this, right? So we'll see. Like I said, if John Harbaugh says something interesting, maybe I'll do another interview, talk about what John Harbaugh said. But I really feel like it's just going to kind of be a repeat of what Eric Decosta already mentioned, right? So, but we'll see what happens with him. We'll go from there. But obviously, give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Reply to our comments, man. It's Gabriel, just Fan TV.